We have seen some ridiculous builds throughout the years of NBA 2K. Builds that can do it all. Builds that are overpowered. Builds that completely break the game. But if you had to narrow it down to a top 10 builds of all time list, which builds would make the cut? We're going to look at builds from 2K15 all the way to 2K21 Next Gen. We're not going to do 2K14. I know there was 2K14 Park, but I feel like Park really started to take off in 2K15. So we're going to go from 2K15 all the way to 2K21 Next Gen and narrow it down to the top 10 builds of all time. Now, any build that's ever been in the game will qualify for the list, with the exception of PC modded builds. If you were making, 15-foot demigod builds on PC, obviously they would be top of the list. We're not counting those. Any actual builds that were in the game can make this list. So drop a like on the video, comment your top 3 builds of all time down below, and let's get right into it. Starting off our list at number 10, we have the 6'10" point forward from NBA 2K17. Now this build probably would have been higher on the list, but this build was limited in what game modes it could play. This build could not speed boost in Pro-Am, so you never saw it in 5v5 gameplay. The only court you really saw this build on was the 2s, but my goodness was this build insane on the 2s. You got a player the size of a center that can speed boost and dribble like a guard, shoot consistently, and then on top of it, a lot of people were doing the animation glitch back in 2K17, so this build was dunking like a slasher. One of the most fun builds to play on in 2K17 for sure, but also one of the most dominant builds we've ever seen on the 2s court. All of the qualities of this build combined with the playmaking grand badge of NBA 2K17 makes this build one of the most dominant builds we have ever seen, and certainly deserves a spot on our top 10 list of all-time builds. Sticking with the same game of NBA 2K17, we have the 6'2" sharpshooter, also known as the speed boosting sharps from 2K17. Anyone that played any type of comp gameplay from 2K17 knows about this build. Whether you're talking about 2s court or 3s court, this build was dominant. You have to remember back to 2K17 gameplay. One of the most overpowered things was the Hall of Fame brick wall screens that would knock people down. So as long as you had a center setting you screens and you're using this build that is extremely fast, can speed boost, and can shoot from half court, you're looking at a build that can dominate the game. On top of that, if you remember the off-ball BB glitch, this build is so fast that when you BB glitch and use the off-ball movement system that was in 2K17, it's almost impossible to stay with this build. On top of it, the 2K17 grand badge for sharpshooters was extremely effective. Once you get that grand badge, you're not going to miss a shot. It's basically game over. You saw 6'2" sharps everywhere throughout the year in 2K17, and for a good reason. Once people found out that in 2K17 they could make a sharpshooter that could speed boost, it was game over. Coming in at number 8 on our list are the stretch bigs from NBA 2K19. Now, I don't want to get too technical, but I'm mainly talking about before the patch to shot contests. If you guys remember when the game first came out, it was extremely difficult to contest a stretch big shot. So we're talking about one of the best shooting builds on the game, able to just pull up over people consistently and barely get contested. Meaning every possession they were getting a 3. At best, defenders were getting a light contest, a lightly contested shot, which in 2K19 really didn't mean much for a stretch big, especially with the fact that all you needed to make was 3 jump shots and you would have takeover as a stretch big. If you were a 6'11" stretch big, you could actually dribble pretty well. A lot of people were ISOing with their stretch bigs in 2K19. Combine that with the fact that pushing was in the game, a lot of teams would run a glass cleaner and a stretch big on the 2s. The stretch big would hold the ball, the glass cleaner would come up from the paint, shove the defender in the back out of the way, and it would be a wide open shot for a stretch big. One of the builds you saw no matter what game mode you were playing, 5v5, 2v2, 3v3, 2K19 stretch bigs were one to remember, and they certainly deserve a spot on our top 10 builds of all time list. At number 7, we have NBA 2K18 6'10" point forwards. Now, the reason I put these above the 2K17 6'10" point forwards is because this build in 2K18 was able to play in all game modes. Comp Pro-Am teams were running this build in 5v5. People ran this build on the 3s, on the 2s. No matter what game mode you were playing, you saw 6'10" point forwards, and for a good reason. This build was insane, especially with the game mechanics of NBA 2K18. One of the things you might remember about 2K18 was the blow-by animations and the snatchback animations, and this build was a king at both. Absolutely ridiculously hard to guard with the ability to speed boost, dunk, shoot, and like I said, with the game mechanics, the snatchback ankle breakers, the snatchbacks just to create space to shoot, the blow-by animations you would get as a speed boosting 6'10" point forward. Man, this build was a demigod, especially for the people that got it to 99 overall, like my boy Sid that you're watching here in the gameplay. Once you got that +1 to all your badge tiers, man, this build was absolutely unstoppable in NBA 2K18. At number 6, we have the 2K20 Two Way Slashing Playmaker or Playmaking Glass Cleaner. Basically, the playmaking and defending pie chart from NBA 2K20. If you guys remember, you saw these builds everywhere. 2s, 3s, Pro-Am, did not matter. People were running the yellow and red pie chart builds because they were unbelievable. Contact dunks, speed boosting, consistent shooting. If you wanted to, you could be 6'8" and get all of this. Or if you wanted to have 99 speed, 99 acceleration, you could be 6'5". You only had to sacrifice 3 inches to have 99 speed. This build dominated NBA 2K20. Anybody that played a lot of 2K20 knows that this build was on every single court, and it was one of the most dominant builds we have ever seen. What really put these builds over the top was not only the fact that offensively they could do everything, but the fact that they got great defense, great rebounding, and Hall of Fame defensive badges. You were basically looking at a speed boosting pure lock slasher that could shoot consistently on NBA 2K20. These builds were absolutely ridiculous. One of the best builds we have ever seen on any 2K, and that's why they take the number 6 spot on our top 10 builds of all time list. Kicking off our top 5, we have the 6'10" pure lockdown from NBA 2K19. This build, if anyone remembers, was by far the best defensive build in the game. You're looking at a 6'10" max wingspan build that can guard the other team's point guard or guard the other team's center. On top of it, which makes the build completely overpowered, was the fact that offensively it was still really, really good. It could still dunk almost as well as a slasher. And you see the shooting ability, shooting fadeaway 3-pointers, get the steal on the point guard, step it back to half court, pull up and green it. This build was easily the best defensive build in the game, but what made it completely broken was the fact that offensively, you didn't miss a beat. The 6'10" pure lockdown from NBA 2K19, anyone that plays the game knows just how good this build was, and that's why you saw it in every single game mode on NBA 2K19. Coming in at number 4, I decided to combine 2 builds, okay? We have the 2K16 6'7" outside point guards and the 2K21 Next Gen 6'7" power forward demigods. They are different, but they are very similar, and I didn't want to waste 2 spots on the top 10 for them. So basically, we're looking at 6'7" demigod builds that could do it all. On Next Gen, the way the gameplay is, this build gets an insane amount of contact dunks. In 2K16, you weren't getting as many contact dunks just because the gameplay was different. But overall, the build's 6'7", so you're a big guard. You can handle the ball. You can shoot the 3. You can basically do everything. As I said, the gameplay on Next Gen is obviously different than 2K16, and contact dunks are much more frequent, so you get a lot more bodies on 2K21 Next Gen than you did in 2K16, but overall, the builds are somewhat comparable. That's why I put them together. I didn't want to leave one or the other off because we only have 10 spots, so I said, you know what? We'll give it a 2-for-1 special, put them both into the same category. 6'7" demigod builds from either 16 or 2K21 Next Gen. Both deserve a spot on the list, and I'm going to put them both here at number 4. Cracking the top 3, we have stretch bigs from NBA 2K18, man. And this is a special place in my heart because this is one of the things that helped blow up my channel, was making these insane videos of making heavily contested shots, being able to dribble on a 7'3" stretch big in 2K18. It was certainly fun, but certainly game-breaking and very frustrating to play against. Also with the off-ball dexing glitch, people in the stage on the threes or running this build at the center, just dexing back and forth off-ball, getting open threes, or even, like I said, if they were contested. In 2K18, it didn't matter. You could green heavily contested shots all the time with these stretch bigs. One of the most ridiculous builds we have ever seen in 2K history. At number 2, post scorers from NBA 2K19. One of the most broken things we have ever seen in a 2K game was post scorers on 2K19. Let's start off with post takeover. Post takeover was not even possibly, it was the most broken takeover ever in 2K19. You would throw your opponents all over the court once you got that takeover. You got the LT post spin speed boost glitch that you just saw right there. You could ISO and Euro step with these post scorers. They could shoot consistently. And as I said, look at the takeover animations that you would get. Takeover was so overpowered that I made a 5'7" post scorer and was able to body centers with the 5'7" post scorer in takeover. Absolutely one of the most broken things we've ever seen. On top of it, you had double archetype. So if you made a sharpshooting post scorer like this, you were basically a stretch big and a post scorer at the same time. Endless combinations to make with the post scorer builds back in 2K19. No matter what you made, it was completely broken. Coming in at number 1, I think everybody's got to know. NBA 2K15, 7-foot small forward demigods. I mean, I think the name just says it all. Anyone that played 2K15 Park and played with or against or saw and witnessed this build, I think would put it hands down number 1 build in NBA 2K history. I mean, what couldn't you do? You could do everything at 7 feet tall. No other build in 2K history really compares. I don't think we really need to say any more about this build. I think this is unanimous, hands down, number 1 build in 2K history. But here's what I want you to do. Let me know down in the comments your top 3 builds of all time. I'm interested to see, do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Do you have it in a different order? Do you have a build on your list that I didn't put on my list? Because listen, it's all opinion based at the end of the day. So make sure you comment down below your top 3 builds in 2K history. I mean, if you got time, you could comment your top 10 and we could debate all day long down in the comments section, but let's keep it respectful, all right? Let's not go crazy and take it super personal. Let's be a mature internet audience, which I don't think exists, but let's give it a shot, all right? Comment your top 3, or if you feel like it, your top 10 down below. Maybe it's different, maybe it's the same. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you did. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.